Being able to grow food in a garden is one of the most rewarding experiences we can have. But even better yet is going to be harvesting that food over and over again. If you look behind me here, this is our salad bed that we've grown this year. And in today's episode, we're going to be showing you all how to harvest your lettuce over and over again throughout the growing season. So welcome back to Expedition Homestead. On this channel here, we try and build your passion for growing throughout many different types of plants, vegetables, fruit trees, you name it, we try and grow it here on the channel. Behind me is our lettuce bed. We're going to be talking about a couple of different things in today's video. We're going to show you how to use the cut and come again method of harvesting your lettuce. And then we're also going to talk about how I seed and grow my lettuce in order to make this as efficient as possible and to create a really high yield. This is a high intensity planting of lettuce. So we're going to talk about all of that in today's episode. We're going to be harvesting out about 4 days worth of side salads here in today's episode. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that right now. When growing lettuce, I'm going to talk about why it's grown like this after I harvest it. But first off, let's get to the good part. Let's get to the harvesting. To do a cut and come again method, instead of pulling out the entire lettuce head like you would in some cases, all you have to do is grab a bunch of lettuce here and then a sharp knife. Keep that knife about 2 inches off the soil surface. And then harvest your lettuce just like that. So we have a beautiful bunch of lettuce ready to eat and consume in the kitchen. When doing this, obviously you would like a sharp knife, so that way you don't have to pull on any of the root stock of the lettuce itself. And another note would be, if you want the best tasting lettuce possible, take your harvest early morning, because it's going to be a lot sweeter and you'll have less of that bitter taste compared to what you would get later on throughout the day, because of the different chemicals that are pulled into the leaves during times where it has bright sunlight directly on the plant itself. Now let's talk about high intensity planting in lettuce and why I really recommend that you utilize it when growing lettuce this year. If normally you grow your lettuce from a seed in little seed starting containers, or even perhaps you thin out your lettuce to the recommendations of the seed packet, don't do it anymore. Just do not do it unless you're growing heads of lettuce like iceberg lettuce and want to grow it in a head. Don't thin out your lettuce. It's not needed. It's simply not needed. How I grow high intensity lettuce is just by taking my row of lettuce, sprinkling the seeds. So I've got several plants per inch compared to maybe one plant per inch and a half. What this is going to do is a couple of things. When growing this way, they're going to thin out themselves. You know, the strong dominant lettuce is going to take over and grow, and it will establish itself just fine. As you can see, it will continue to grow just fine despite not being thinned out. And then, since they are so closely packed together, this also kind of allows the lettuce to grow in a fashion that would be self-supporting. So instead of falling out to the sides, as it were, these plants are then going to kind of grow straight up together because they are densely packed, because I haven't thinned them out. So overall, it's not going to cause an issue with your plants whatsoever, and you're going to multiply your harvest by several times just by not thinning out and using this method of high intensity planting when it comes to lettuce. You can do this with all sorts of salad types as well: arugula, Many different leafy greens can be planted in this matter where it's considered high intensity. I encourage you to do it if you haven't done it before. And if you usually get your lettuce seedlings as a transplant from the store, just stop, don't do it. Save yourself so much money by planting seeds because the seeds are extremely cheap. You can get a packet for about $2, and that can get this entire thing going for $2. And the lettuce seeds can also be started out very, very early in the spring, sometimes earlier than our last frost date. And in fact, I would encourage you to plant it out before your last frost date. Those seeds will germinate in the soil whenever nature tells them to, whenever they feel like it's the right time. They can receive light frost. They can receive a pretty heavy frost, actually, for the most part, and will do just fine. Where if you're growing a transplant and you transplant those lettuce heads outside, they're going to have a much harder time because they're not used to those temperatures. They're not used to that frost if it were to come. They're not used to the ranging temperatures either, the cold nighttime temperatures that we'll get, and then maybe the warmer 40-some, 45-degree days after that. If you're growing lettuce in early spring, they're not going to be used to that. So growing by seed can start your harvest really, really early on, in fact, as early as possible. And then because we use high intensity planting and the cut and come again methods, we can harvest throughout the summer months. They're not going to bolt. They're going to do really good all the way through even July. Sometimes it gets a little bit harder because it's so warm and so dry. We do have to make sure that we keep these nice, happy, and wet. But that's when things like wood chipping and mulching the surface of the soil and a good mycorrhizal fungi content in the soil, all of that stuff starts to come into play when we talk about maintaining these plants during the hot summer months. So it's kind of a culmination of a bunch of different things when it comes to getting good harvests off of your lettuce plants. But it is, as proven here, very easy to do. You can produce a lot of lettuce just out of a small area. This is a section that is about 1.5 feet by 4 feet. And right here, we've got enough lettuce to pretty much last us if the whole family had lettuce for several days. And then these new bits of lettuce that are left here will grow up, and in about 15 days, they'll be ready to harvest again as well. And so you can get this continual supply of lettuce by not harvesting the entire thing at one point, by harvesting sections out and letting it regrow again. Again, make sure you utilize high intensity planting when doing this because you'll get so much more out of your harvest that way. See, my overall goal on this channel, like I said earlier, is to build your passion for growing. I do this by showing you how easy it is to implement a couple of different techniques that can help you out in the garden. Some techniques that go against the traditional rules of gardening, like not thinning out your lettuce plants, as we showed earlier in the video. Things like this can be utilized and should be utilized in our garden to make it a little bit more fun for us, while at the same time making sure that we increase our productivity in the garden and decrease the amount of work that we have to put into it, because the barrier of entry for gardening should not be money, and it should not be the amount of time that we have to spend. So I'm going to show you all many different ways that you can decrease those things in your garden, whether you're growing vegetables or perennials or annual ornamentals as well. Lots of different things on this channel. I want to thank you all, as always, for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's video, consider giving us a thumbs up and subscribing, checking out all of our other videos. We're just about at 500 videos on the channel, so lots of content for you. I hope your gardening season is going great so far. If you have any questions or comments, if you've got some issues in your garden, feel free to comment down below. I will try and get to every one of them. Happy gardening, and we'll see you in the next episode.